Hi, everybody, and welcome to our OUSD webinar on low-tech distance learning strategies. We are in meeting format today, and we're going to keep our daily featured webinars in meeting format for the rest of the year. So if you're a live participant, you have the ability to share your video and audio, but please do keep yourself muted and feel free to turn off your video if you prefer. And since we're in meeting format, we don't have the Q&A function. So if you do have questions during the presentation, please submit them in the chat window. I'm going to be monitoring those and putting those in a separate document so we can circle back to those questions. And by the way, I'm Kenneth Chin. I'm the OUSD Coordinator of Instructional Technology. But I'm really just here to assist and learn today. And my colleague Sam Solomon will be facilitating today. Okay, so, and just to let you know, private chat messages are captured in the chat transcript so that the hosts of the meeting actually have access to those. So be mindful that private messages are not truly private. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to shift into listening mode. And Sam, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Sam Solomon. I'm a teacher librarian on the Calvin Simmons campus. So I serve Life Academy and United for Success Academy. So I have two sets of 6th to 8th graders and one set of 9th to 12th graders. And this is my 9th year in the district. Before that, I taught English. So it's nice to see all you guys in the participants. And I'm going to start sharing my screen with you. Here I go. So the first thing I'm going to say, I'd really like to just start by reminding you guys that you are not alone, and there's the option for one-to-one support. This is the Teacher Central homepage. And if you just scroll a little bit towards the bottom, you can click on one-to-one support. And I even saw some names of people. I saw somebody I met with yesterday here in the participants. And this is like my favorite part of my job right now, is meeting with people and doing one-to-ones, because I feel like I'm helping, and that's great. And you can see our team is way expanded. So now you can move on from Kelif and me to some people who are volunteering from Salesforce and who have some teaching experience. And so if you can't get an appointment with us, or if you're sick of us, which I totally get, then you can start, meeting with other people as well. So there's lots of options for one-to-one support. You are not alone, even if you choose low-tech distance learning. So I'm going to go ahead and click present. So we're thinking about low-tech distance learning today. If you want these slides, they're at tinyurl.com/lowtechdl, and this address is on every slide. So if you miss it on this slide, don't feel stressed. It'll be right back. But it is tinyurl.com/lowtechdl. And there's lots and lots of reasons why you might be pursuing some low-tech distance learning right now. All of these are super valid. All of these are things that people have said to us in the last few weeks, and they're super important to consider, right? Low-tech distance learning is a great option for students who maybe are having a hard time getting online, or for adults who are not comfortable with it. Or somebody mentioned to me, like, I'm really comfortable with technology, but the parents in my class are not. So there's so many reasons why you might be pursuing low-tech distance learning right now. And I think where we're at in our distance learning journey, which is going to be long, and forging new ground, is we want to meet people where they're at, right? Including our students, including our teachers. So that's partly why we're here talking about this today. I want to just talk about a little bit of framing, right? Distance learning has so many equity issues involved in it, around laptops, around internet, around even phones. And we want to make sure that we're providing, equitable access and the opportunity to learn. And so low tech options are an important part of that. That being said, some of the assumptions that I'm making in this presentation is access to a smartphone, either on your side, well, I guess both on your side and on the side of your students. That I'm also assuming you have working ways to contact families through things like talking points or via text or email or phone. And I'm also just assuming data use is not something I need to talk about or think about in the plan. And of course, these things are not all the case, right? I know that, but we had to begin somewhere. And so this is where I'm beginning. And this is our agenda, right? In that kind of continuum of distance learning, right? There's these, lots of people are going really hard on tech, like myself and Kelly definitely included. But I also just want to name that, like, on that other side of the spectrum, right? We'll talk about smartphone only. We'll talk about if you're comfortable using a smartphone and Google Docs, and like getting a little medium tech. We'll talk about a little bit about smartphone plus Google Sites. So those are sort of the areas of technology that I'm sitting with today and that we're going to spend some time on. I did a little bit of research yesterday about distance learning and low-tech distance learning, and these were some of the ideas that really stood out to me as being meaningful and important and high leverage, right? So thinking like any device will do, right? Picking activities and picking options like a Google Doc that will work on a phone, that will work on a tablet, that will work on a computer, so that however your students can get to it, it will work for them. It's really important that you're still you. So focusing on your experience and your knowledge and your personality, right? Whether I recorded framing videos for each of the modules that I made for teachers at my site in RPD. And it was just straight like this, me talking to the camera and kind of framing where we're at. And that's really the part of that PD that like I felt most proud of and most connected to. Less frequent delivery and more time to engage. So putting out materials for your class on a weekly basis, or saying, hey, here's our Google Doc for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, gives students more time to engage with them, and it gives you more time to prepare them. And tracking student engagement, however, is easy for you, right? Of course, we're not grading, but I also think it's important information to know, like, who are we seeing? Who are we hearing from? Who are we not hearing from? Because that can also be a sign that they're, a wellness check should follow. So using Google Forms, using your same paper gradebook, whatever you used before COVID-19 will work, and just help you figure out who needs a follow-up call. I think that's all the framing. Now I'm getting into kind of no-ish tech, except for your smartphone. So you can use just text messages and talking points. If you are comfortable, if you're using talking points already with families, you can just send a daily assignment or a daily challenge to students and ask them to return it back to you as a photo or a video. If you have older students, you could do this in contact with your students, but if you have younger students, you might use a caring adult. And you can see on my screen, I made a fake text message that, is an example of how you might communicate with a family. You could be asking students to do things like read something aloud and send you a video. You could text a math problem and have students record a video of them explaining it and holding up their work. You could have them engage in like a science activity. You could text them a PE workout and have them send you like a video of them doing it, or a before and after photo, right? Because they'll be all sweaty and PE'd out. So that's an option. That's really, really low tech, super easy, probably great for even like littler kids as well. Here's a little tech. If you're using talking points or email, you could also definitely use email. And one of the things that I want to point out is I linked on this slide to our Talking Points webinar. And this is Talking Points Help Center is another option for if you're getting started with Talking Points. I know lots of us are using it who haven't used it before. So you could use Talking Points or email, and you could use a Google Doc. So this is an example actually from that PD for teachers that I created. And if you click on it, it'll take you to the real document. But I just want to kind of give you like a brief overview. So I created these modules for teachers that are sort of like meant to model like a weekly kind of class structure, right? Where I have a little bit of a lecture, which is my framing video. I have a couple of readings. I have something that I'm asking them to do. And then these were more for kind of adult facing things, right? Like apps and tutorials and references. But so you can send out that weekly Google Doc and say, hey, here's the Google Doc for the week. You can send it via talking points. You can send it via email. And then your students have time to engage with all of those things. That might look like this if you're using talking points, right? Like, oh, hi, here's the week to the assignment. And then I shared this view only link. I sent it, it's blocked by, at least on my screen, by my Zoom bar. But I sent it early in the day. And I just copied my link from Google Docs. On a smartphone, you can click right on it. If you want to make like a fancy custom URL, like we do on our slides, like tinyurl.com/week of April 28th, I do that at tinyurl.com. I'm missing an L here and I'll fix that. But you don't have to. I didn't here. When we're thinking about best practices for using like talking points or email and Google Docs, you want to send a document that, you know, has kind of a range of things for students to do, including maybe a message or a framing of the lesson from you. I think that personal touch is a really important part of distance learning, right? It could just be a written note at the top, or it could be a video of you, but it's going to sound like you to your students, and that's going to be meaningful. You can include like whatever media you want them to interact with, like YouTube videos or articles or activities, and then some kind of output. The output could easily just be type in the doc, right? But it also might be something like Flipgrid or Edmodo or Google Forms, which are completely optional. So if I say Flipgrid, or it should say Edpuzzle or Google Forms, that's optional. Don't freak out. You have lots of options. These are some templates that I just wanted to name that you can edit. You can click on the template and it'll take you to the original. You can just make a copy. But if you're using talking points plus Google Docs, it might be nice to like not have to start from scratch. So you can think about what you might want to put here for students. And some of them, like for example, this one is a great example of one that's already filled out. And you can see the output that they're asking students to do is just take notes on the Google Doc. If you do that, you will have to ask students to make a copy, which they'll do by clicking File, and they'll click Make a Copy, because you don't want all your students typing on the same Google Doc, of course. Last option that I'm going to talk about, because I want to leave lots of time for questions, is low tech for families and like medium tech for teachers. So it's the option of making a Google site for your class. It functions really similarly to how a Google Doc might be. It functions really similarly to a Google Classroom, but there's a lot less that can go wrong, I guess is really what I want to say. So you can use your Google site as like a one-stop hub for your class. And I think whatever you're using, it's nice for your students to know, oh, she's always going to contact me via text message, or she's always going to post my weekly assignments on Google Classroom, because then they know where to check and they're more likely to check it. So you can create a Google site for your class. You can use it to do all the same things as those docs I just showed you. You can share videos, you could share daily activities or challenges, you can share your messages, you can share those weekly Google Docs. If and when you have time, if this interests you and it doesn't feel overwhelming, then this video takes you step by step into creating a Google site. And this guy is doing it for his class, so it's very applicable. Google Sites is fairly easy to use. There's like a little bit of a hub to create it, I think. And then once you're in, it's really just dragging and dropping in what you want to use. So if that doesn't sound too scary, later at the end of this, after our Q&A time, I'm happy to demo Google Slides, or Google Sites, I mean. Great. So let's, I guess, look at those Q&A questions. How are we doing?
Yeah, we really, we don't have any questions right now, so this might be a good time. Yeah, I might want to just add about Google Sites is that Google Sites is really phone friendly. So,
great point.
So it's just, it looks really good on phones. So if you did have a Google site set up, then it would just be super easy for students or families just to go to the site and see, okay, what's posted today. And it's really easy to put YouTube videos on there, and they look great on there. And
yeah, Teacher Central is a Google site.
Teacher Central is a Google site, and I actually, I know how to code. I can create like websites from scratch, but I just like Google Sites because it's easy to use, and I just love the idea that that it looks good on phones, so that when the users, that when they click on the link to go to Teacher Central, you know how with some like sites you have to scroll like kind of sideways to see everything. At Google Sites, it doesn't do that. You just like kind of scroll through vertically, and it looks really good.
Yeah. I saw in the chat, somebody mentioned you might want to send out, like, so once you make your Google Doc, you might want to make a copy and then send out that copy and ask people to make copies of that copy,
Yeah.
just in case somebody accidentally types into it. You can also share so that it's view only, and so that nobody can accidentally type into it, which is a great idea. I also saw somebody ask the difference between Google Classroom and Google Sites. A Google site is just a website. So you're creating a website for your class. And Google Classroom is like, it's called the learning management system, right? And it's a space where students are like interacting with your assignments, right? They're sort of collecting work, they're turning it in. It has a gradebook feature. It's a little bit more interactive versus a Google site, which is a little bit more like just output that students are interacting with, right? You're just putting things out. They're not going to give anything back. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I might want to add also just another thing about Google site. You know, it is, it's a website, but it can just be a web page. So it can just be like, when, you know how like a lot of websites, they've got, or most websites, they've got multiple pages to them, and you navigate here, you navigate there. Google Sites can just be like one. If you want to keep it very, very low tech, you could just make it one single web page, maybe add like new content to the top of it. So the question, Google Sites is not a place to collect work. No, that's really more for Google Classroom. That's the kind of thing like where it's more interactive, and Google Sites is really something more where it's just it's for people to view things.
Mm-hmm. And I also saw the difference between PowerPoint and Google Slides. PowerPoint is like a paid program through the Microsoft Office suite, and Google Slides does something similar to PowerPoint or similar to Keynote, which is like the Mac version of PowerPoint, to create presentations. All the slides that I've created, and I know all the slides Caleb has created and we've shared with you, are via Google Slides.
Mm-hmm.
And you can embed Google Slides really easily into a Google site as well.
Yeah, basically they're PowerPoint and Google Slides. They've got the same functionality as they're basically for slideshow presentations, but Google Slides is kind of like the free internet-based version that all of us have, all students have, and it's a lot easier to just share via the internet.
Yeah. I'm curious. Oh, can we add whiteboard to Zoom screen share?
Yes, whiteboard is an option with Zoom screen share.
Yeah.
That's something if you're looking at share screen, if you click on that, then that comes up as an option, a whiteboard. And so if any of you are not familiar with that, I've never actually used that, but my wife was looking at that last night, and it just basically gives you just like a blank screen, a white screen, and then you can draw on it, you can annotate it, and just maybe you would want to illustrate some kind of concepts or something like that. You can also annotate on just a regular screen share also.
Mm-hmm. I saw somebody said Google Slides can be a good place to make a class project where everyone can add one slide. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't talk about that because I didn't want to like stray too far from super low tech, but yeah, you can absolutely create a slide deck, and I've done that, and it's worked really well with students where everybody's editing one slide, and then you get this sort of class slide deck that can be on a topic or on, like, how are you doing, all the way to like, I've done it where I've included links and had students read different things, and then we kind of jigsawed it.
Yeah, I saw a question about who would be the best person to do for brainstorming best distance learning structures to continue these classes. I would say really anyone that's available. If availability is an issue, I know that my schedule and Sam's schedule has been kind of booked up recently. So if any of those new people would work for you. I'm sure they could talk to you about that, but we'd be happy to help also. Both Sam and I enjoy those sessions a lot, and we enjoy helping anyone who needs some support.
Yeah, I saw some questions about Google Slides. I'm going to share my screen really quick. And like, where can you find tutorials? So this, I mean, these are just, YouTube is where I always look for tutorials for everything. And so I just want to like see what comes up together when we do that, because I think there's probably a lot, especially if you're new to Google Slides. Oh, internet, you can do it. So Google Slides. Oof. Try again. So Google Slides tutorial. I even saw for beginners, which I left off, but you can see there's a ton. So you can find.
There's one of mine right there.
Oh, hey, look
Google
at
Slides
that.
for kids.
Oh, look
I've
at
been
that.
getting a lot of requests for, I haven't made episode 2 yet, and so I need to work on that.
Are you busy?
Yeah.
And then another spot I know that you can see some Google Slides tutorials is my library website, the Calvin Simmons Library. We have a playlist of Google Slides tutorials that you could use.
Yeah, question about can you keep Google site private or can anyone view it? They're basically, yeah, there are different settings for that. So yes, you can keep it private and you can just share with individual people. So that might be what you want to do. You would just need to give, you need to put in the email addresses for people when people sign on, or you can make it public, or you could just keep it to within OUSD, people with OUSD email addresses.
And Teacher Central is an example of that,
yeah.
Right? Where we have to click on our OUSD address to see it.
Yeah, I wonder if, Sam, this might be a good time maybe just to do a little bit of a, just a quick Google site. Do you think you could just like walk us through, like, how do you create something from scratch?
Yeah, I definitely can. So I'm sharing my screen and I'm gonna go to my Google Drive. Oops, oh my goodness. So to my Google Drive. And I'm in my OUSD Google Drive. And I'm gonna click on New in the top left corner. And I'm gonna choose More. And then something's gonna happen because I definitely clicked on it. Oh yeah, there it is. And I'm gonna choose Google Sites. And it's really like, and now I've created a Google site. And it's totally gonna load. And so once I've created this site, it gives me like this kind of initial template. And I can start by entering my site name. So I'm just gonna call it sample site. And I can say on my title page, what do I want my title to be? Like, welcome to Miss Solomon class, or whatever you would want yours to be. I could put an image behind this, or I can just use what's here. So that's easy to change by just clicking choose image. And you can choose from ones that they've already even pre-selected for you. And this is really dealing with like the aesthetics of your website. But they have pre-selected options, or you can also always upload your own. That's like vaguely schooly, so that's plus. You can change the size of the header as well. And then now it's like, well, I want to start putting things in my website, right? So I might start with a text box, and I might start with a title. And if I'm thinking about like, oh, it's this week, it's the week of April 27th, I think. So I can put in that heading. I just dragged and dropped it in. And then I can start using these layouts that they've already created for me. So I can click that and it shows right up. And I can be like, watch this YouTube video. And then I can add a little bit of text. If I want to add the YouTube video, I can click on this plus sign. I can click on YouTube. I can put Monster Yoga, Sesame Street. It will totally load. There's my video, right? And so then if this is what I'm doing, I can just do that for all the things I want my students to interact with. Something that's really nice about Google Sites is I can also preview it by clicking up here at the top. And it'll show me this is the desktop preview of like what it'll look like to my students. And then I can also look at what it would look like on a phone. And that's what Kelt was talking about. Google Sites is really nice to look at on a phone. It works really well. I'm gonna stop sharing and look at questions, sorry.
We've got which webinar talks about understanding break rooms. I think you might be talking about breakout rooms in Zoom, and we don't have one for that right now, but that's a good thing. There are resources for that. So if you do a search for that, then you can find out about that. Would you also share the video? Yes, we do share every video. It usually goes up within 24 hours on Teacher Central.
I can show you where too if you're looking for it.
Yeah.
On Teacher Central.
Miss Nino asked if, I think you're talking about if Google Sites, if you can send that through talking points. Yes.
You absolutely can. Yeah, I'll show you how. So if you're on the Teacher Central homepage, there's webinars right in the center on the front page, and you can see all of the recorded webinars going all the way back to March 20th, a different time. And so all of them are there, and these ones from yesterday and today will be there as well. And then just to quickly go back to Google Classroom, how do you share it through talking points? So one thing that is maybe worth mentioning is if I click on share with others, somebody asked about privacy, so I can change the privacy settings. The draft is like what is my working draft, so probably like I or me and my co-teacher are the only people who need to see that. But when you can also change it for the published draft. So the published right now is anyone at OUSD can find and view, and that's what Teacher Central also is. You have to use your OUSD email to log in, but you can also change it so it's public on the web. So for example, my library website is public on the web. You can also change it to specific people can view when published. So that would be like you are specifically sharing it with your class. Maybe they're not using their OUSD emails. Maybe they're like little and they don't have them yet. But I'm going to leave it right now for anyone at OUSD can view. I have to click publish, which I will. I have to choose a web address. I'm just going to leave it how it is.
And I might just, while we're talking about the sharing settings, Sam, I might just mention, so if you do decide to make it public, just be mindful of what you put on the website. For example, you would not want to put, if your website is public, you would not want to put Zoom links on there, right?
Yeah,
because we know that has been an issue with people somehow finding links and then getting into meetings. So just be mindful about that if you're making your website public.
Yeah, and pictures of your students, or even your so when you're ready to share, however you're going to share it, you just click at the top, copy published site link, and then you can copy the link and you can send it via email or you can send it via talking points. It's super easy to do.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I think we kind of touched on this before, but do you send a URL of the Google site to parents on talking points? Absolutely. You can send any link on talking points, and especially with mobile friendly links, that's a great way to use talking points for parents that maybe they really only have smartphones at home. Maybe the students don't have Chromebooks or internet connection. So that's a great way. Great use of low-tech distance learning. Yeah.
This webinar is being recorded and it will be on the OUSD Teacher Central website. And then sounds like somebody's having a quality issue with screencastify. It's clear when it's recording, and then when you share it to Google Classroom and Play, it's not a clear picture. I'm curious if that actually has to do with like your bandwidth when you're playing it back, and if that's also your students' experience, or if it's or it's still processing. I'm not 100% sure, but I'd be happy to check in with you on a one-to-one about it, or do some Googling and follow up. I need to train my parents to help students. Do students need to use their OUSD email? It depends what it's for. If you're using something like a Google site, or if you're communicating with parents via talking points, students don't have to use their OUSD email, or parents don't have to use students' OUSD email. If you created a Google site and you wanted to not make it public, then maybe students would have to use, you maybe would have to use students' OUSD email, or you could share it directly with parents' email address. So it sort of depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, did we talk about, when you were looking at those sharing options for Google Sites, Sam, did you show just about like how you can add specific people to that?
I did. I can show it again.
Yeah, but it's probably the best thing, especially if this is something that, if it's a Google site for your kids, for your students, it's probably best practice not to make it public and just to share with specific people.
Yeah, so I just clicked this person plus sign up here at the top, and then I can change, oops, sorry, that's for editing. For viewing, I can change it so just specific people can view and published. I can say save. It is saving, and now I can put those people, and I might want to make sure that it's can view published and not can edit. So I just changed that in this drop down, and then I could put in either my student's email or the email addresses of their parents.
Yes. And actually just got a reminder from one of the colleagues that we are going to be launching a Parent Central website this week. And we are looking to go live at some point this week, at the latest on Friday. And there will be tutorials for parents about that. And this might be, that might be a good place to include some of this information. So thank you for that reminder, Arcelia.
I see, what if you want to use as a text message for parents of younger children? But I'm not. Do you know what? I'm confused.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question was, what if you want to use as a text message for parents of younger children? You could send the link via text message. I'm not sure if that's what's being asked. Like if you're using Google Sites or a Google Doc and you want to send the link to the parents of younger children, you absolutely can. It'll just affect what sharing permissions you choose. Yeah, Parent Central is super exciting.
Okay, so any other questions, or would you like for Sam to demo anything else that she talked about? Go ahead and put that in the chat. We're running a little bit early, which is always a good thing. But if you do have questions, or you'd like to know a little bit more about any of these resources, go ahead and put those in the chat, and we'd be happy to help you out and just explain a little bit more. Sam, I think that Flipgrid is also, it's a good low-tech option because it works so well on phones.
Yeah, I would definitely, I think you could easily use Talking Points and Flipgrid together. If you didn't have a class website.
Yeah.
I think you could easily use Flipgrid with your Google site.
Yeah, absolutely.
Within a doc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you are not familiar with Flipgrid, we did have a webinar on that a couple of weeks ago, and so that's posted on Teacher Central.
Yeah, and I'm happy to. I can demo it quick too.
Sure. And we got a question about like how do you actually send? I think like that would apply to anything, like a link to YouTube.
Yeah.
Link to Google Sites.
Yeah, how you do it is you copy and paste the link on your phone, and then you paste it into the talking points message.
Yeah. How do you, would you mind, Sam, just like really quickly, because this is something that's come up for my wife, just like, how do you actually get like the link of a video, like a YouTube video? Could you just show that really quickly? Like, how do you find
For
that and then
sure.
copy it and then paste it into something else?
Yes, I have to share my screen before I click back over. So let's see. Share. Okay. So if I'm here on YouTube on this Calvin Simmons Library website, and I am like, oh yeah, Google Slides tutorial, I want to share this with my students. So I'm here on the website, and there you have a couple of choices. You can click share, which is just right underneath the video, and it shows you the URL, and you can just click copy. And then you can take it to talking points, or take it to your Google site, or take it to your doc, and you can just paste it with Control V or Command V if you're on a Mac, or you can right click and choose paste. Is that what you were thinking, Khalif?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Like, yeah. How are you getting a link and then putting that?
Yeah,
How do
I
you,
can also, yeah, that's typically how I'll do it. We talked a little bit about Flipgrid, so I'll show you Flipgrid. Maybe if it loads. Oh, bad gateway, terrible news, Flipgrid. Try again. There we go. So I'm gonna click login. And Flipgrid is covered extensively in our Flipgrid webinar. So I'm gonna keep this very light and tight. Flipgrid uses the word grid to represent your class, and the word topic to represent the individual assignments. So I'll show you how I might use Flipgrid together with my Google site, maybe, if it loads. But it's super easy. Flipgrid is great also for students who are using phones or tablets. Great. So it's another really good opportunity to do that. So I'll just click here. This is my grid from our Flipgrid webinar, and I can click add new topic. And my topic title can just be sample topic. And then I can choose how long I want students to be able to talk for. So anywhere from as short as 15 seconds to as long as 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a really long time. I'm gonna go with 1.5 minutes. And I might just be I can put whatever I wanna put here, how are you doing? If I want to, I can record a video myself. So you can give the directions for your Flipgrid via a recorded video. I think it's important. I don't know why Flipgrid does this. It seems like you should just click create, but what you really want to do is click more options, particularly because you might or might not want to enable moderation for your video, and students can, which is you approve student replies to your topic. You might want to turn off student-to-student replies and turn on moderation. If you want a due date so that it freezes and students can't add after a certain point, that's there as well. These are some video options. So likes come turned off so students can't like each other. I might turn off video count. And then you'll click create topic. And then again, with copy and paste, Flipgrid gives you this option. If you're using it with Google Classroom, you can just send it right in. If you're using Remind with your students, you could, but I'm just gonna click copy. And then I'm gonna go back over to my Google site. And I'm gonna put my same setup here, and I can be respond to the Flipgrid. And I can click, I'll choose embed, and just by URL. So I can just paste Control V or Command V, and it takes me, here is my bad gateway. It should work. I'm not sure why it's not working. Let's see. I've copied my link, but I was having a little bit of trouble with Flipgrid before, so maybe it's related to that. Sorry. insert, and I can put my link. And then assuming it works and I figure out why it's not working right now, which is really silly, I can just put it right here in the box where it was.
So Sam,
my
is it
students can respond.
that, so Flipgrid students, they don't actually need like an account? Is that right?
That's true. Yeah, if you provide a link, that is, they don't have to, they will have to log in with their OUSD email, which I think
Okay.
is like a good security thing that we want.
Mm-hmm.
But the default is that it asks them for their OUSD email. You can create a public grid, but I don't advise that.
Might be better for security just to keep it only to OUSD, so they have to log in.
Yeah.
But
And it is just that one click, like login with Google.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. I got a message asking, this was a private message, but I think this is a good question for everyone. If students go to Google and they log in with their email and password when they first get onto the computer, will they then be able to navigate smoothly between Clever, Google Classroom, Google Sites, etc.? And that's a great question, and the answer is yes. So that's when students, when they do log into a computer, or whether it's a OUSD Chromebook, or maybe it's they're logging in on Chrome browser or Safari or something like that at home. If they log in with their OUSD accounts, then that lets them get into Clever with no problem. And then once they're logged in there, then they can get into Google Classroom again without entering password and username. Google Sites also. Google Docs also. And then because they're in Clever, then they can just easily get into a lot of their apps that are on Clever. So that makes things a lot smoother. So excellent question. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I saw somebody ask about how to organize Google Classroom into topics. And also a separate question, does iPhone have QuickTime for screen recording? I don't think it's QuickTime, but iPhone does have the ability to screen record.
Yes.
And you can add it so that I can just hold up my phone. It shows up down here on your dock. It's in the settings part of your iPhone, and then you can easily screen record, and you can send it via text message super easily or via talking points super easily. And how you organize Google Classroom into topics. If you are feeling really excited about Google Classroom, you should check out our Google Classroom Next Steps webinar, which is linked on Teacher Central, but I can show you real quick how to do topics. If you go to your Google Classroom, and it totally loads quickly and everybody feels cool about it. Here is mine. When you go to classwork, you can click create and you can click topic. So I can also add a topic for like, if I wanted to put all those links in. And then as I'm adding material, right, like I can click on this one and I can say edit. And so as you're adding material, the option comes up to add a topic, and you can quickly add in the topic, and they'll all come up there. So it's sort of as you're adding material, or you can edit material that you've already posted and add the topic that way.
There's a question about Zoom. Do students need to have a Zoom account to log in? Many students have trouble by clicking the link. So that's something that I think I can address. So let me just share my screen really quickly. And so this is, I'm on, are you seeing the Zoom screen there? Yeah, you must.
Yeah.
Be. Okay. So if you go to zoom.us, this is when you're scheduling a meeting. So let's see, I want to just go to make sure I'm in the right place now. So go to my account or log in if you need to. So I'm going to sign in with Google and just go to my account there. So when you are scheduling a meeting or setting up a meeting, if you schedule a meeting, then you have this is, you've got, you know, the name of your meeting and when it is and whatnot. But then if you go below, then you have different settings. Okay. So enable waiting room, that's always recommended for meetings with students. This meeting here, only authenticated users can join. So that's referring to what you're talking about there. So if I click on that, then that means that they have to sign into Zoom. So they would need a Zoom account, and students do have Zoom accounts. But if you leave that unchecked, then that means that they would be able to sign in maybe with a parent's phone or parent's, you know, on a computer. They don't actually need to be signed into Zoom. Now that said, you are removing like one more layer of security that is recommended. But if you really need to, have access for people who are not signed into Zoom, then you can leave that unchecked.
Yeah, and using things like the waiting room with that
Yep.
is like extra important.
Right.
I saw a question about, can a younger student use Flipgrid from a parent's phone without using their OUSD email? Yes is the short answer. Here is how. So I'm on Flipgrid. This is my grid, my class. And I'm just going to show you the edit view. So like if I was creating my grid, I would see the same thing from scratch. But there's a flip code, so you can share the flip code with them as a way of them getting there. This particular grid is currently set to public, but you can also use a student ID list, so they could do it that way. You wouldn't want to use the school email option because then they won't be able to do it through their parents' account. So using the student ID list, right, that would be one way you could do it. Setting it to public is another way you could do it, but add a password. So public with a password and the flip code would work and be like safer.
I'm wondering about just what some of the options are just for using Flipgrid, Sam. Like, so for example, if you basically set everything public, you know, like as long as you're not like posting that in a public place, then you should be okay. But then in like an extra layer of security, Sam, like correct me if I'm wrong, is that you could set that particular topic to like approve videos, so that no one could put something on there without you knowing it.
Absolutely.
To make sure. So would that be like a reasonably secure way of doing that?
I think so. And I think you could go public. You could have a password that you share with your students and moderation. And I think that's, you know, I think it's very reasonably safe.
Okay. And I see that Arcelia posted there's a video how to use a Chromebook, Spanish video. Thank you for posting that. Appreciate that. And what's that question? Should I send the Zoom link to parent email or student OUSD emails? Because when they sign in, I get parent names instead of student names. So, well, you might want to send it to both, just depending, you know, it's sometimes parents and students, they're not actually aware of like which, you know, they might be signed into their own account, or they might be signed into parent accounts on a computer. So they click on a link and then they're not aware of like how they're getting in. So you might want to send it to both. Anything else that we haven't addressed yet, Sam?
No, but shout out to the Office of Equity YouTube channel, which is where that video and probably more videos like it can be found.
Yes, and we are partnering with the Office of Equity to create the Parent Central website. So looking forward to getting that up. All right. So I think we're actually going to end about 9 minutes early here. We had some time for questions. We really appreciate everyone participating today. And if you do have additional questions, please feel free to get in touch with us or schedule one-on-one with one of us. We're happy to to help you. We know that this is not easy. None of this is easy, even for people that are quote unquote tech savvy. It can be challenging. But if you are feeling intimidated by technology, or you're feeling stressed about parents or students that are challenged by technology, this can be a very difficult time. So appreciate your persistence and flexibility. Thank you for all that you're doing for your students. Thank you, Sam, for the excellent presentation today, and for all that you're doing to help OUSD teachers. All right, so we're going to sign off now, and we will be posting the video. I'm going to try to get this one up a little early today, this afternoon, so that you can view it later, or anyone else, any of your other colleagues can view it as well. All right, so thank you very much. We're going to sign off now, and have a fantastic day.